trying to instill that in my assistant coaches. Let's be learners. I give them books to read, and they have to do a book report for all of us. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you, there's coaches out there listening. It's just not punch the clock practice and you're out. You gotta be a lifelong learner.
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
Well, thanks for being on today, John. I have so much respect for you, what you do with Nebraska Volleyball, your players. Actually, on my way driving over to Fairfax, I live in Maryland here, I was thinking, I could have played for John. I think I would have really liked to play for John.
Yeah. Well, that's
what's that about?
That's the best compliment of the week right there.
Well, good deal. I mean, it was heartfelt too. I mean, it was like, yeah, I like this guy. So anyhow, John, Nebraska Volleyball is one of the most successful volleyball programs in the country. John's led the team to multiple national championships and has been named National Coach of the Year several times. One key thing that I like is that, John, it seems as though your players really like you. And that's not an easy thing, to come by. Women are pretty clear about that and the importance of that. I see your strengths, and we're going to talk about this a little bit today too, is that ability to recruit that special players. And I heard you talk about some of those on a YouTube video here this summer after the Kearney game, I think it was. And your strategy when coaching and putting game plans together for teams. And then lastly, and maybe this is the part where that is somewhat of your superpower on top of all the other superpowers, is the understanding of the importance of communication, relationships, and teamwork with your team. It's great to have you on. I hope you agree with some of those things I just mentioned.
Well, every day is a challenge. I can tell you that.
Every day's a new, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Isn't that the best part about coaching?
Yeah, I was talking to a very elite performer yesterday in rodeo sports, where it happens very quick. The failure rate is very high. It's really hard to win. And he told me, he said, if I just focus on whether I win or lose, I'd be miserable. But what I focus on is the journey and the process to go through all this and prepare and go play. And that's something it really resonated with me, because I love two-a-days. I love our spring break when it's just us in Hawaii. We're in Hawaii and it's just us and the team, no school, no boys, no nothing like that. Those are my favorite times of coaching. I really don't enjoy the matches that much. I love being in the gym every afternoon and training, and the process of developing, learning. I read a quote from Patty Gasso, who's the Oklahoma softball coach.
Okay, sure.
She said, "My team makes me a better coach." And I've said that 100 times over the last year. This team and this group of this generation coming through has made me a better coach. And again, I think if you're always learning and trying to get better, you don't burn out. You don't get, that's what makes it fun. And it's just learning and growing and instead of like, well, it used to be this way and it used to be that way. There's always that new adventure and that process and journey that we're going through.
I definitely see. I mean, literally, my feeling is like, yeah, I could. Well, actually, I played at Nebraska, so I have a little bit of shininess there with regards to that. But your style, your assistant coaches that you bring in, you train, you teach, so you get to keep some of them, but some of them go on and have these amazing careers in other big time volleyball programs, and your players come in, and I'm looking at a roster this year for you guys, and 10 returning players, and all your starters are back. This is not a transition in and out kind of program. I think that's definitely a strength of yours that you help those players feel the love for the game, really, and then as you said, the journey, and have super high expectations. Wow. What fun is it that you get to train these amazing athletes to play this game that you love and the state of Nebraska absolutely loves to watch. What's it like to go into the gym with these young women each day and their competitiveness and their drive to get better?
Yeah, the group we have right now is super competitive, which makes it a lot of fun because they love to compete. They love to train, but they love to compete even more. And we have great practices. I was saying in the fall and in the spring, I would pay to watch our practices. And I know other coaches that come in, they say the same thing. They're like, wow. Now, it's not always that way. I just happen to have a very competitive group right now. So that makes it a lot of fun. Coaching, whether they're elite athletes, just average players, or even 9th and 10th graders that'll come to our dream team camp here in a couple of weeks. I just love teaching and coaching. It doesn't matter what their skill level ability is. I was telling somebody yesterday, like even in our camps, I'll go take the lowest court, the 7th graders whose mom just dropped them off. I'll go train them for a session. So, and Janice, I don't know what your background was after you played, but I started off as a 7th grade geography teacher and coaching football. And so I think one of the things today is like my assistant coaches, they just went straight from playing into coaching. I think the great coaches were teachers and started off as teachers or went through the teaching process. So you look at Russ Rose. We just did a documentary 2 days ago. Big Ten came in here and they're doing a thing on Russ Rose. And, he still was teaching when he retired. He was still teaching class at Penn State. And I've gone and taught sessions over at on the School of Education. They'll ask me to come over once in a while. Anyway, I just love teaching, and I think that's something that's missing in this generation of coaches right now. Is they never have gone and taught 7th graders, in a classroom for a year. You learn how to really teach and coach.
Yeah. What you say is exactly what you see most of the time. But yeah. You said I honestly did. My background was teaching, and Pat Sullivan, my coach at Nebraska, was also a teacher and very fundamentals, like teach the fundamentals and go through that. And I heard you say something also recently about the importance of keeping yourself fresh in terms of your coaching mind, and maybe bringing some new things into your gym that not only excites you, but also, your players get to see something maybe just slightly different in that year preparing to compete in the Big Ten.
You can really open about a 2-hour podcast if you want me to get going on some of that. Because one of the things I'm riding horses now and learning how to rope. I'm doing that because I want to push myself and get myself out of a comfort zone. And I'm around some really elite people who can teach and show. And of course, with a horse, they don't talk to you. So you got to figure out how to work with them. So it's been a complete transformation for me in regards to being fresh coaching. It's also a hobby, which gives you a break, and I think that's one thing I've been really pushing is people have to have hobbies. And I figured that out in 2010 when I hit the wall. I had to get something else besides just coaching because you become consumed by it. And it's all you think about, and you need breaks. As humans, we need breaks. But, we're also, so I had my coaches in different gyms this spring. We went to Brazil last year. We're always looking. I study other teams. I read this great book about how a horse's mind works and a human's mind work and how those work together. So you're just always trying to, and I picked up a lot of that from Coach Pettit. He was a thinker, reader, always studying. Yeah. And I think that was one of the things that he really impacted me was be a lifelong learner. And you can learn. I mean, he would always use golf. I've used flying planes, playing guitar, riding horses as my other ways to learn and challenge myself. But I'm trying to instill that in my assistant coaches. Let's be learners. I give them books to read, and they have to do a book report for all of us. Mm-hmm. So I would encourage you, there's coaches out there listening. It's just not punch the clock, practice, and you're out. You gotta be a lifelong learner, and I love learning from football coaches as well. I study all of them. I'm a football consumer, let's put it that way, and really watch these coaches. And that's something that, if it's a message sent, be a lifelong learner.
That's awesome. It does make the days really exciting. Get to learn something new. That always feels good.
Yeah.
So I listened also to you speak, I guess, I don't know what year it was, to the Nebraska football team. And it was preseason, I believe.
Yep.
Maybe it was even coaching transition. I'm not sure. Now, was that something you got asked over to do? Is it something you volunteered to do? How did you get there? And your story that you told that day, I didn't know any of those things about you. I knew you were from California. I didn't know some of the other parts of what makes you you, and how you got into, you mentioned the coaching football early and teaching, and then the transition to volleyball. I was really moved by that story, John. Would you mind sharing some of that?
Well,
because I love what it says about you.
Yeah. I'm always watching football. I go over and watch a video with those guys. I just love being around football because they're trying to coach 115 guys, and, it's just mind-boggling. And it makes me appreciate we got this team of 14, 15, 16, whatever it is. And we've had a lot of head coaches since I've been here. So each one kind of at some point will say, hey, will you come over and talk to the team? And I love it. And so I don't know which year you saw, but because it's every couple of years we've had a new coach. And so I just really enjoy that. But last year when Coach Rule had me come in there, I really connected with those guys and had a PowerPoint for them. And they were very, very attentive. Every one of them shook my hand after I left. I just felt like, wow, that was a major connection. And those guys all love coming to watch volleyball. And so that's one of the cool things is, working on a college campus, it's not just your team. You're interacting with all these athletes. You see them every day. You run into them at training table or different places, and you talk to them. And again, you build relationships with them. And so what's cool about being you're around young people who are, very elite and motivated and working hard. And so it's a lot of fun.
I don't really understand how football does all those different parts and pieces and puts it together, offense, defense, and whatever. But pretty impressive stuff. The Olympics are coming up. They're in Paris, and I'm looking at the players that have been selected. They just recently released that. And Nebraska has 3 players. I believe all 3 of these played for you, and that are on the final cut of 12 going there this summer. Jordan Larson, Kelsey Robinson Cook, and Justine Wong Orentiz. I hope I say her name right. And they've got multiple years of being on that team. What made this possible for these individuals? Now, I know they're all very different, maybe, but some things may be the same, to have multiple years and to continue to excel at such a high level and represent the U.S.
Yeah, we're very proud of that. And I think it's a big compliment to Nebraska volleyball. But the best way that I look at this, I think this doesn't matter whether you're trying to be an Olympian, a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, a teacher. Playing at Nebraska volleyball, in women's volleyball, there's very few places like it. But when they leave here, they've acquired a lot of skills. So they know how to do time management. They know how to do media. They know how to do video and preparation for opponents. They've played in front of big crowds, so they're used to the pressure. They're used to, if we play a bad match and I got to go to the grocery store the next day, somebody might say something. I hear it. And so they're always in the limelight, and they're dealing with the expectations and but also people, they just want us to win and do well. They get bummed if we don't. And so anyway, I think those players, and those three specifically, it's allowed them, and we've had three players on the last two Olympics, and now this is the third in a row. I think they just get this skill set that allows them to be able to perform on the biggest stage in the world. And of course, many of them, and they all are playing pro. So they're used to playing in the pressure situations in those pro teams with, it's win or you get fired, and so anyway, I just think this program and our environment here and everything that goes with this program prepares them to be able to perform at that high level.
Well, I know I'm very proud of those young ladies, and all of them really. Have you ever been to the Olympics to watch this? Have you gone over?
I actually coached with the USA men in the Barcelona Olympics, which was 1992. So I was in that quadrennium. So when I came as an assistant at Nebraska, and then got hired to go back to San Diego at the time with the men, and then I coached through Barcelona. And back then, it was a full-time training program. So there was guys there year-round training. The problem was we were year-round traveling. And now they just come together. They get there in May, June, July, August, September, if they have a championship or Olympic qualifier, and then they're back to their pro teams. So it's a pretty cool job because you really only have about 4 or 5 months. But back then we were traveling about 200 days a year, and it was just really hard to have a family and do all that. So that's when after the Barcelona Olympics, I went back into the women's game and started at Wisconsin. And that was my first true head coaching job in college.
Yeah. I remember that transition too. I remember your success there and how difficult that was. I think you've been a part of a lot of tough things in trying to raise the bar here with volleyball and being such a influence on where we are in this country with women's volleyball. 92,003 people in a stadium, world record that was broken last summer. And I feel like that wave of things has been part of a lot of things in women's athletics. What's your thought about that particular event and how it's still somewhat affecting and influencing the game?
Yeah, you'll remember this. Us older people remember the soccer team in the 90s when they finally won, and it was on TV and it was in a big stadium. And that was kind of, I think, the first jump for women's athletics. Like, wow, this women's athletics, we got to start taking this seriously, and this is big time. And then I think we kind of went into a lull, and college is growing, club volleyball is growing, some other sports are growing, but it hasn't really not many pro teams or anything, especially volleyball. Everybody's still going overseas.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if the timing's been right or whatever, but these pro leagues are coming in now. But in our stadium match, I think really propelled, and it was another defining moment for women's athletics, like the soccer team. And then now I see it took off in women's basketball. It's just continued. Women's softball just had the highest ratings ever. Women's basketball had the highest ratings ever. Volleyball had the highest ratings ever. And more people watching. So I just think women's sports are really, really popular right now and on fire. I think the stadium match was one of the things that helped propel it. I also believe that I think with men's sports now, and I'll use with the portal and everything, these guys are leaving, they're transferring. The women's game is still somewhat pure and like it used to be, and you know who the stars are and what teams they play for, and so I just think people are really attracted to that, and they're looking for it's still about the game and being a great teammate and, playing hard and but they're also going to put on a great show, whatever sport it is now, because they've gotten so good. And I know, Janice, I know when you used to recruit and everything, I mean, I walk into a convention center now, and you used to know, okay, there's 4 good teams here, Now there are 30 great teams, and everybody's got great players. Club volleyball has really, really changed, and the quality of players, the depth of it, and that's why you're seeing college volleyball so competitive now.
I noticed that in the last Olympics. I was like, oh my God, so many records are being broken in the women's areas, whether it was track and field or volleyball or whatever it was, because they've got a lot of years of just really putting emphasis on creating that athlete, that skill level, and have expert help around them to bring them to that point. It's truly fun to see. Being a female that had started way back in the beginning of this all and fighting over things that, we focus mostly on the game, but, there was always about something that we didn't have.
Let me ask you, did you played in the Coliseum?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you guys have a locker room?
Oh, maybe in Mabel Lee Hall.
Or
it was, we went to change in the bathrooms. I don't remember. Yeah.
I was telling a story about when I first came in 2000 as head coach. There was one, we finally got a locker room down in the Coliseum, and there's one pipe coming out, with water for a shower. And I look at what these guys get today, and I mean, they get everything. But, that was 24 years ago. It's really come a long way, which is great. But we also got to continue to remember the past and honor the past. And each year I try to take our team this is the way it used to be. And here's how the tradition was developed, because they just think it's like this everywhere.
Yeah, right.
I know. And when they go to pro teams, they think it's going to be like Nebraska, and it's not.
No.
Anyway, I was just thinking about that the other day, because we started camps today, and we're using the Coliseum. So you go back through memory lane.
Yeah, Mabel Lee Hall was my beginnings.
There is no more. There is no more.
Is
Mabel.
it gone? It's gone.
Gone.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Right. Oh my God. No, that just came down, right? Because it was there.
They built the School of Education's there now.
Okay. All right.
And that used to be my favorite gym to train in. We used to take our team over there. Like if we were playing, go to Purdue or some Cracker Box gym, the old Indiana gym. That was just like Mabel Lee. We used to go over there and train before we go to Indiana, just so they get used to the small walls, the echoing, the noise. It's a small PE building, and
right.
So that was my favorite gym to train in.
Well, I'm honored to have been in that gym.
Yeah.
Let's jump a little bit to the Big Ten schedule. We got some new teams coming in, joining the league, very high-powered programs. And now Big Ten's going to go from coast to coast, 3 time zones. Woo, what fun that's going to be.
I know.
I think it's a really good thing that you guys charter and you get to come home after those. But what is it that you're looking forward to with the addition of these teams into the program and really just this season, coming off such a successful year last year and winning the Big Ten title last year?
Well, each year it's always a different challenge and doesn't, the last year really doesn't mean anything. And again, I think for volleyball, the Big Ten, having those 4 teams in there is just going to create more interest now. I mean, there's going to be a lot of great stories, a lot of, new things that people are going to be excited about. And as a coach, I mean, I don't think too much about it because it would drive me crazy, but we still don't have our schedule yet. So there's no sense in worrying about it until we get our schedule. We don't have it yet. So, but we do know we're going to go to Washington and Oregon. We'll play there. We don't go to the LA schools. They come here. I do know that. Mm-hmm. We're really going to have to be ready to adjust because the travel is going to be So I look at, is Nebraska an advantage or disadvantage? We're in the middle.
You're in the middle.
We have the shortest trips to the coast. So I don't know if that's an advantage or disadvantage, but, going West Coast to East Coast. And then you look at like Stanford and Cal, who didn't get in the Big Ten. I mean, all their schools are playing are in Eastern time zone. So,
oh my, I didn't even realize that. Yeah.
So that's really going to be interesting how they do that. But it's exciting, and it's women's sports. I do worry though with these super conferences. What's going to happen to a Nebraska Omaha?
Mm-hmm.
Some of these other mid-major type schools. How's this going to impact them? And now with the NIL stuff and portal stuff, and it's just awkward time right now. It's very unsettling where this is going to go, but you just worry about can everybody stay competitive? That's going to be the key.
I just recently saw you have a 5-year extension to your contract, a little bit of a raise. And somebody said something as so you can buy another horse. I don't know if that was just a rumor or a funny comment. But here's the leader of, are you the only Division I program that makes money in all sports across the board? Or is it just within volleyball? There's
only one women's sport that makes money, and that's Nebraska volleyball. And, so we're really proud of that. And, I'll tell you the story, how this all happened.
Okay.
Because you'll appreciate it, because you were here, you knew. So my first year here, I get here and I go to speak to the Beef Club. You remember the Beef Club was the football, and they were the booster club. Yeah. And I'm bragging about how we're gonna go take our team to China. We're gonna be the first college team to go into basically what was communist China at the time. So this guy goes, well, who's paying for it? And I said, well, our athletic director supported this. I'm guessing it comes from the booster clubs. He goes, yeah, if it wasn't for us, you guys wouldn't be able to go. And I walked out of there and I said to myself, someday I'm going to shut that guy up. Mm-hmm. When we started selling out the Coliseum, so we came back and said, okay, we're going to start a sellout streak just like football. And it started in 2001. And we've sold out every match since 2001. And we were selling out the Coliseum. But and even though we have the highest ticket prices, we still couldn't make enough money to make a profit. And because you really need it with TV.
Sure.
In football and basketball, most of their money comes from TV. Football, obviously, with tickets because they have such a large stadium. So when we had the chance to go to Devaney, that was one of the main drivers of making that decision is, could we be a revenue-producing sport? And we did the numbers, and if we had 8,000 seats, and we charged this amount, and then we charged priority seating, and they put in 5 skyboxes, which I thought they were nuts, but those go for $39,000 a year. Well, there's right there is $200,000. Mm-hmm. And anyway, by doing all that, it allowed us to become a revenue producing sport. So we're very proud of that. Hawaii in the past back in the old days, you remember, Hawaii never traveled. I don't think they were in a conference. Everybody went to Hawaii and played. They might have made one trip. So you're never traveling. You don't have many expenses. Yeah, but what's really been great for us is we have this unbelievable travel budget being in the Big Ten, because we do have to charter everywhere. Mm-hmm. We literally have to charter everywhere. Some of the schools like Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern, they can bus to several schools, but we have to charter, and we're still making a profit. We've been averaging about $600,000 a year profit. So again, it's our fans support it. We still have a waiting list for season tickets, which is great. So there's a great demand.
Yeah. I remember watching them run to the line to get in front, to be in the line that goes around the building.
Yeah.
That's just so fun. I mentioned earlier that you're really great at building team culture, creating this atmosphere for your program. Each year you have to come up with something new and different. And I think there's some gigantic chain links somewhere. hanging in the somewhere that's this part of this year? Is that something you can share, or is that a interpersonal, inner team thing? Okay. I'd love to hear about it.
They're hanging in the Vanny.
Okay.
Right now, the camp kids are all seeing them. Each year we kind of have a theme, and a lot of times that theme will come out of something within the team. Something happened, a lesson we learned. So this spring and again, culture is something you're constantly building, and you cannot take it for granted. After we lost in the championship, I could already see our culture start to have little cracks a little bit. I mean, before we left Tampa. Anyway, some more things happen, and okay, we gotta refocus on our culture here, because we do have everybody back, or most everybody back, and came up with this chain symbol. And I asked our strength coach, "Do you have some big old chains, ship anchor chains?" And he got these two great big thick chains. He goes, "Yeah, I got them," because they use them over in the weight room.
Oh,
these things are massive. We hung them up, and then we gave our team, we went on Amazon and bought little chain links. And so everybody has them. And so if you do a great job on this podcast today, I would give you a link and say, "Hey, great job. You're building our culture. Thank you." Because, we talked about this, and then, so their goal is to build their own chains. And then when we get ready to start in August, we'll put all the chains together and make our new chain for the fall. So that's one cool thing about coaching women. They really like stuff like that. It's I don't know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'm liking it right now.
And it's meaningful, and it's a symbolic thing that we can do and talk about and build a theme around what we're trying to accomplish. And again, every year it teaches me how important it is. You almost have to, and especially the way college athletics is going now, I use the word reinvent. It's almost every year you're reinventing. So you're talking about, well, you guys return all your starters. We have to reinvent our team. We have 2 new freshmen. We got 2 transfers. We have to reinvent each year, because the way college athletics is going, there's going to be change every year. So that's how we look at it, and building our culture and finding ways to symbolize that. And by talking about it and the press see it, they go, "What are those things in there?" And so it helps us, because our players have to get up there and talk about it and explain it to media and other people, camp kids. So that's kind of my way of continuing to hound this, what we got to do, and make it important.
One of the things, John, your relationships, your communications are really key pieces to your program. Within that, you have these incredible captains, or the leaders. How is it that you help either build that? Is that something that these individuals already have in them, and you give them some boundaries or some guidelines to help them be a pretty significant part of your team? Because I see you, and I see the captain or captains being right there with you as huge leadership for your program.
Well, thank you for noticing that, because when I first started coaching, everybody kind of knew who the leaders were going to be. And there was players that were prepared to be leaders. Well, when social media came in and iPhones came in, all of a sudden, and I've talked to all of the other coaches here, they have the same feelings I do. We don't have any leaders anymore. They're not, how they grow up is different than, Lindsay Peterson works for me. She was on our 2000 team. She's a farm kid. You know what? She's pulled calves out. She's had to run the combines. I mean, she's had to work and do chores. Okay, you develop leadership in that. She had to drive hours to go play club volleyball, but she played all the sports. So you really develop the skills to be a leader by growing up that way. Kids today, they're on these teams. Everything's done for them. Mm-hmm. Several years ago, I figured out, okay, if we want good leaders, we're going to have to develop them. So I started studying the Navy SEALs. I talked to other coaches about what makes great leaders. I talked to our old great leaders, help me with this. I need help. And so we work at it. And last year we really had to, because we had no seniors. So we're like, well, I don't know who's going to be the captain. We got no seniors. you can't even just say, oh, the seniors are going to be the captains. So we decided to put together a program. How are we going to develop captains? And what we did is we said, okay, this night, starting in February, on Wednesday night, we're having dinner at the training table, and anybody who wants to learn how to be a captain, come in, because we're going to talk about it. Well, we did that. Well, guess what? Everybody in the team showed up every session.
That's awesome.
So then you already mentioned it. We did have last night. Okay, if you want to be a captain, now's your chance to get up and talk in front of the team. Almost everybody got up and talked about they wanted to be a captain. And then we took it to a team vote, and Lexi and Merritt were chosen as the captains. We had several others that we got votes, but they got the majority. We let them vote for a couple, like 3 if they wanted to. So it wasn't just one person. And that's kind of how we did it. And then those are 2 great young women who they're just really special. We're really lucky to have them. I tell them all the time how much I appreciate. Mm-hmm. And with them, the problem is they worry about everybody else so much, they forget about taking care of themselves. So that's our problem with them.
Funny problem, right?
Yeah. The bottom line is you have to work at it. And I think you have to develop leaders and captains now. And it's just not, there's no more natural born leaders. You got to work at it.
Well, congratulations to those 2 young ladies. And I'm sure they'll do a great job for you this year. When does your preseason start, John?
That's a great question as well. I'm really not sure because we're actually playing an early match. Remember the old days? We had that ABCA showcase. They're trying to bring that back. So we're going to open college volleyball on a Tuesday night in Louisville against Kentucky. So I'm not sure actually what our start date is. My players keep asking me, and I'm like, I don't know. We're waiting to hear. But they are making adjustments. They did move up the start date. So it'll be sometime, August 5th, 6th, 7th in there. Yeah.
Oh, early.
Yeah, it's gonna be earlier now.
So it begins and ends in Kentucky this year.
Yep.
The volleyball starts there, and the championship will be crowned there. Yeah. How fun is that?
And Jamie Gordon, who's the new ABCA president, Kathy DeBoer did an amazing job. But now with Jamie there, he's really trying to push the envelope on some things. And this is one of his things he wants to do is bring that old showcase back. I mean, football does it. They have 0 week. Basketball does it with all they play preseason matches for weeks. Yeah. And so why not volleyball? I mean, we're us in soccer really start off college athletics. And so this would just be a great opportunity to capture sports fans when football hasn't started yet, because we'll start before football. So it's a great idea. Yeah. And the only 2 sports will be going. Soccer will actually start competing, I think, a few days before we do. But we'll have a great window there to promote volleyball.
Yeah, get a jump start. And so Nebraska's there. You mentioned, is it Louisville or Kentucky? Kentucky?
We play Kentucky at the Yum Center where the Final Four is. Okay. And then Wisconsin's going to play Louisville.
Okay.
So on the same night. Okay. So it'll be a double header. Okay.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Hang on a second. Yeah. I love the red cowboy hat. I love that your smile when that was happening was from ear to ear and bigger than I've ever seen it. And I saw joy just fill you up when you were wearing that hat. The students were all around you and the fans were all supporting you and recognizing your program for that outstanding stuff. So I bought myself one of these cowboy hats.
Yeah, they're hard to get.
They are hard to get. This was special order.
Yeah. They went, people loved them.
Yeah.
But that night was a great match, first of all. But I always challenge our students, and when we used to be at the Coliseum, we didn't have a student section because there was no room. So we got a student section here. It's not ideal yet. They're kind of split up, but I've always told them, like, why don't you guys ever storm the court for volleyball? You know?
Oh, you led them into that. Okay.
Yeah. So, but they don't storm. They're afraid in volleyball, the security people, because of the court and everything. Of course, basketball, they storm all the time. So they kind of were starting to storm, and the security was holding them back. So I'm like, I'm going in right there with them. I put the hat. I went in there. I grabbed the guy's hat. I said, I'm taking this, put it on, and just jumped in with the students. And you know, we buy them pizza. I buy them. We get to the tournament. I buy the tickets for the kids to come in. I mean, they camp out here all day just to get in. They're awesome. And I have fun with them. I go down and sit with them, talk to them. And it's a great thing about being on a college campus is it's just not our athletes. Those are great kids down there who are going to do great things.
Yeah, right. Another little tidbit about you that I got a tickle out of was how you really hate Halloween, Secret Santas, and you were kind of like, you're all serious about, you know, whatever you're getting ready to do, and they're doing Secret Santas down here. I really got a kick out of that. Have you ever dressed up for Halloween?
No.
Well,
I did one time in college, and I still have PTSD from it because it was nuts. But they love it. I just always feel like I'm going to waste a day of practice. It's always right before some big match, you know.
Right.
But they really get into it. It's kind of a tradition here. And I mean, they're so creative and funny. And it's another way. I try to have fun with them, but it's painful for me. Because I'm like, okay, let's just get to practice. But they have a blast. They go all out. So it's of course now with social media, it's easy to go all out because, you know, they post it and everybody sees it. So it's yeah. But no, you're right. I just try to get through it and have fun.
I want to thank you for coming on. We're really sending this out to all of our folks that support the Side Out Foundation and Dig Pink. Breast cancer affects a lot of folks, and we have some great things that can support those individuals. And the research that we're doing from that support that we're giving patients is really important and key to those living with metastatic breast cancer. So I'm sharing this with them and anybody else who wants to listen. But John, it was so fun to have you on. I wish you the very best this year with your team. May you experience all wonderful things and keep that journey rolling of fun and challenges that you meet every day.
You're welcome. It's an honor to be on, and I appreciate all the work that you do.
Thank you for listening. Please share your feedback with us at side-out.org.